I'm kind of looking at the timeline of things, and I'm curious kind of what brought her back to Myrtle Beach, because she worked as the Horry County teacher back in like 2010 to like 2015. She reported him as missing in 2020.
I think her family was here.
So she was here first.
Yeah.
Okay, well that would make sense if her family was here, but yes, this happened in 2020 that he was first reported missing.
And this is her stepson, so where is Dad? I don't think I've read anything about.
I didn't see anything about
him or his opinion, or
I think we heard from him in the very beginning when he thought us, and he didn't think she had anything to do with it because
were they still together?
We never want to believe that. I think they were together.
Yeah.
And he just, he really believed her in the very beginning because why would you not? Who would want to believe that somebody could hurt your child that especially somebody you chose, you know what I mean, to bring into their life, which brings up for me. So we see this, and it's called the Cinderella effect. And the Cinderella effect is when you remarry and and you have children, the chances of a step parent abusing a child goes up 100%. And that's crazy. So when you allow people in your life and you have children, it's one thing if you're single, you do whatever you want to do. You put your own life at peril, right? But when you have children, you have this duty to protect them, and you got to make sure that you're bringing someone in their life that is just, the best.
Horrible.
Which who would ever think that here's a special needs teacher?
Yeah.
You would think she's
would like to know
a walking little angel.
Yeah.
If everything was good. I didn't see anything about like the relationship between the stepmom and son, or not that it matters because it's clear. I think justice will be served. I hope, because it seems, even just reading about it online, that they have a ton of evidence against her, and that she's kind of already admitted that she did it. Whether she's crazy or not is insane or not is still to be determined. But it would be interesting to know sort of the backstory, how they got to Colorado, because I'm just assuming that she went there with her husband and her stepson.
Right.
And then fled. Were they separating? Was it contentious?
Right.
Like what?
And then for the remains to be found in Florida.
Yeah.
And then her be arrested here.
Yeah, and for her to do that by herself.
Yeah.
It's one thing, I know the Cinderella effect and the abuse and stuff, but to actually kill your stepson and then go drive him across the country,
his body,
is like a wild thing.
Yeah, you're right, because you're saying that the blood was found in the Colorado home.
Right.
Yes. And then his remains were found in Florida.
Which means he had been dead for quite some time.
She had taken him there.
His body.
Yeah.
Which is...
And that's why they also charged her with tampering with the body and things.
Yeah, so she has... so she was arrested in Myrtle Beach, March of 2020. So I think very soon after. I mean, she first reported him missing in January, and then she was charged in Myrtle Beach in March. But she's charged with first-degree murder, child abuse resulting in death, tampering with a deceased human body, tampering with physical evidence, 8 counts of crime and violence, or crime of violence, and attempted escape. So she has a lot.
So we do. So I kind of want to I want to preface this conversation with, I want people and the people who watch this to understand that while we do criminal defense in this firm, we do not take cases where people hurt women, children, old people, or animals. So I do a lot of DUI work, and we're very particular about the cases we take, and part of that is that we protect women and children and old people and animals. And that's why we represent victims in those cases, to make sure that they have a voice and they're able to tell their story and get their justice, whatever that looks like for them. So when we hear these stories, especially where we have victims who are children, it really, really gets me, and it gets us. So we are pro-prosecution in these cases, very hard. And I just can't even wrap my mind around hurting a child. It's beyond my comprehension.
Yeah, it just feels like there's a lot of the story that's missing. So I'm hopeful that will come.
Well,
come out, and that this kid will get justice, and his dad, and whatever's going on there.
Well, and I wouldn't be surprised if it did come out that there was a history of child abuse prior to this happening. But yeah, I mean, a lot of, again, with many of the stories, it's not fully finished. We're waiting on these trials, we're waiting on evidence to come out. So these are details that are still, surfacing. But his name was Gannon. I think it's nice to say his name. His name was Gannon, the 11-year-old.
Just a little boy,
little 11-year-old. Yep. And I think the thing that is so upsetting, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why hurting a child is upsetting, of course, but they're so defenseless at that age. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, you know, same thing with animals and the elderly population. It's kind of like you really have to be a real piece of work to hurt somebody who is so
sickest of the sick to be able to hurt.
People
who literally cannot hurt you back.
They can't hurt you back. You're many times bigger and stronger and whatever. And a lot of times they trust you as an adult. And so it's just, when you really think about it, it's just disgusting.
And I keep thinking about, like, this is a lady who was a special needs teacher.
In our county,
in my head, like, you just don't start. Like, this kind of stuff just didn't, like, come about. Like, there's, like, usually a history of stuff that's wrong here. And I think that everybody needs to take a long look at her history and all the children that she has touched to see if there was any kind of, because you just don't start this kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you just don't go from 0 to killing an 11-year-old and driving the body across the country.
Well, I think there's been a lot of stories here recently too, where teachers and daycare workers and all, you know, have been getting called out and getting in trouble because
we represent children who are abused.
People who
in our community.
People that are doing wrong
by the people who are supposed to
in the
protect
school
them.
system. Yes. And so I think that there also needs to be a look at how are we vetting these teachers that are working.
Yeah, because so often with abusive teachers, excuse me, and we see this especially with police, but we're also seeing it with these teachers, is that instead of documenting whatever's going on, they just kind of, like, we call it passing the trash. They let them resign in lieu of termination, and then they go on to do it to other children because they're all afraid of the liability of it. So instead of doing the right thing, because, you know, I always say every day, if we just did the right thing, the rest follows. Because we can all wrap around, you know, one person doing something bad, and then everybody doing whatever it takes to stop it from ever happening again. But what we can't wrap our mind around is the cover-up of it, the lack of accountability, and then allowing them to go on and hurt other people, especially children. So I think that's the part that just these are the things that keep me up at night, that we're not doing what we need to do to protect every kid that comes after that.
Well, and it's such, you know, on the other side of that too, I mean, I don't know how teachers, we are grateful for you, because I don't know how you do what you do. But on the other side too, say that Gannon was kind of being abused. There's also that flip side of things, of teachers kind of caught in the middle of reporting these children that they see being abused, but also not much getting done. I don't know if you guys saw, I think they did a documentary on it. I couldn't watch it, but I knew some of the details. It was a Hispanic little boy.
We can't talk about it.
Do you know what I'm talking about that?
Yeah, we cannot talk about it.
Okay. But
I'll start crying.
No, I don't want to talk about the details of that. No, I don't want to talk about the details.
I can't.
But it was kind of like the system failed him, right? And this happens to children all the time.
When life gets ugly, justice is love.